Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome once again to Daily Tribune's online show, Pairfect. I am Dinah Ventura. For today's episode, we have a visionary tackling the critical issue of energy poverty, which affects nearly 800 million people worldwide. His groundbreaking initiative, Litter of Light, harnesses inexpensive and readily available materials like upcycled plastic bottles to create solar-powered lighting solutions for communities without electricity. Inspired by the impactful ALS Ice Bucket Challenge, Illac launched the Light It Forward Challenge in 2020. This campaign has mobilized over 5,000 celebrities, organizations, and distinguished personalities across 5 countries, lighting countless homes globally. The Light It Forward campaign was honored with the Asia Pacific Social Innovation and Partnership Award for empowering diverse groups to build solar lamps during the pandemic. In 2020, Litter of Light's climate change film premiered at Expo 2020 Dubai, and in 2022, Illac was recognized as one of the Conrad Manila's champions of sustainability for his significant contributions to society and the environment. Illac Diaz, welcome to Pairfect.
Well, thank you so much for
So I'm a
inviting
little
me.
bit out of breath from the long credentials, and you've done so much with Litter of Light since you started it.
I think what's important to see here is the scale of challenges and how people are addressing it. I think it's one of the greatest threats, crisis points for the Philippines as a nation, and yet it's because it moves so slowly that people are not addressing it. So I think one of the things with Litter of Light was really for us to show that we not only need to address certain things, but we also can bring this leadership abroad, which is counter to the waiting for Superman that
Yeah.
some Western
Yeah.
and so that was what I wanted to do. I mean, the family has other businesses, but it was very important to me to show that we from Asia Pacific are not only victims, but we can be a voice in climate change.
Yes, and we can offer solutions
Yes.
and really act for it. But take us a little back to that time when you started it. How old were you then? You were quite young to
So,
be
so this was
starting
about.
such a massive.
I've done several social enterprises.
Okay.
I think first of all we have to set that uh, social enterprise is something the 10-15 year time frame here. For many parts, doing good was about charity.
Yeah.
And when you do charity, you're asking for a handout. Help me, give me money so I can do good. And it's
Yeah.
the most embarrassing. It's the most difficult thing, especially in the Philippines, where really people don't tithe. No, people don't donate regularly.
No, it's not in our.
But they're the most generous. They really give money to their families, scholarships in the tribe. No,
Yeah.
but anyway, so that's why we were not able to go beyond extension ng bahay or converted garage because charity. It
Yeah.
just did not work in a Filipino situation. And so social enterprise came along about 12 years ago. And I realized that using business tools, but with a broader perspective of not just saying, uh, how much money can I make? So what about my employees? So what about society? Build a bigger world. But the most difficult one is, so what about the environment? As long as I make money in the narrow sense of business. And social enterprises, no, we have to address employees, society at large, because no one can just be an island of wealth and then everybody else, to hell. But the most difficult one was really this attachment with the environment, that it was something that could be at the expense of progress. Because these have long 10, 15, 20, but even nobody expected that on the worldview that it would actually be the extinction of a species.
Yeah nga.
You know, it's not that, it's in fact when they say, let's save the world.
Yeah.
When they say, let's save the world, they don't talk about Mother Nature. They're saying actually us. If you say save the world, it's like the world will go on way, way past us. It's gone through so many, but it's us that cannot survive living conditions of 2 degrees or 3 degrees, you know, more.
Okay, so that was that's what
The mindset,
yeah,
that was the
that you
mindset.
had even then.
And then I started building schools, and these schools were with what you would call indigenous technologies. When typhoons hit, the place where people run to when their houses start shaking with, you know, above 150 kilometer per hour winds is schools. And the reason we have such a high number of people that die is because communities go to the schools to find shelter, and these schools are built only for 100 kilometer per hour winds, and so they're all packed in the classrooms, and then it collapses on them.
Topples on top of
And
them,
so I
my
was
God.
interested in looking for new ways to build it. So I did earthen schools, like building with stuff that you don't need to bring cement, steel, and glass manufactured. You know, there was a time before where people used to make their own houses. And there are churches up to today, even in Ilocos Norte, that are standing, you know, after, you know, 300 plus years. There's technologies that we've forgotten. And so I wanted to go back and say, look, if the people on the front lines, people in the, you know, in the rural areas are the first one to be hit by climate change, they should be able to build at least with indigenous technology instead of waiting for cement, steel, and glass, which is the most expensive. So I just wanted to revive that.
Okay.
And one of the things that I realized as I built schools is nobody was going to put electric posts and light up my schools.
I see.
So I had to develop.
Did you look for that actively, or you research it? How did it
Well,
come about?
it was, you know, as I built these schools out of bamboo, so I started building the first schools out of soil. Of course, not like this Spanish, no, not the adobe blocks, but with earth, you know, I call them earth bags. I was a student of Nadir Khalili, and he invented it. But the first one to build them here, bamboo schools, how to treat them. Now bamboo construction is,
Yeah.
but before nobody was really doing
They didn't
large
know what
scale.
to do with it. Yeah.
And so anyway, my thing there was teachers were asking me, you know, how can we not only light up the classroom, but how can we light up? And so I started saying, hey, solar is nothing that I invented, but we can actually buy the parts.
Okay.
You know, we can buy MOSFETs, LEDs. We can actually start building it with simple materials, and when you go to the school, you can charge it, right?
Yeah.
And so what I didn't expect was, as I was building lights, that the teachers and the parents, when they went home, they actually started replicating some of the technologies and renting it out. So I found out later on that one of the most expensive things in the provinces was kerosene.
Okay. Yes.
To keep the house lit, you always have to almost spend 30% of your income just to buy kerosene or wood or any kind of way to keep your
Fuel.
house fuel, carbon-based fuel to keep your house lit.
Yeah.
And so there, I said, they started renting it. And so I started asking them, why do you need 2? Why do you need 3? Why do you need 5? Pala, it started to become a business for them to rent it out.
I see.
So then I started specializing in looking for bamboo or different ways to do it.
The materials.
Yeah.
Okay.
On the 12th, on 2012, sorry,
2012?
2012 was I think Typhoon Haiyan, and I was called and they asked me, you know, we cannot import solar lights for these disasters.
Yeah.
And is there a way for you to build it with local parts? Because it'll take 5 months to get it from China or in India to get 7,000 pieces.
Okay.
So people already knew that I didn't invent it, but I knew how to build solar lights
Yeah.
by hand. And so I knew also that there were factories in Cebu that had solar panels. There was a big manufacturing area that SunPower was producing
Solar light.
solar
Okay.
cells, sending them to China and then bringing them back as panels.
Oh.
So we already had the technologies, but nobody was making products.
Yeah.
So
So that was you. You put it all together.
that's where I first experienced large-scale
Mm-hmm.
implementation of solar light building.
Yeah.
No factory.
Mm-hmm.
I went to women cooperatives and I asked them to build it. So I saw that there was a big chance to bring green technologies not only to solar plants, but or what industrial, but starting to build green jobs on a village level
Yes.
was such a big potential job creator. To put energy,
You saw that right away. That
Yeah,
that
yeah.
potential. Okay. Is that the product that
Oh,
you're
yeah,
talking
so-
about?
so liter of light is it's LEDs. Of course, we make them out of bamboo. We make them out of pottery. So we also have pottery. And the circuits of this is very simple. These are MOSFETs, radio parts. There are four components: resistors, diode, and really, what happens is when you have a solar. In India, we actually manufacture these things by hand
Oh.
because you can actually cut this. What is called solarettes
That's a
by
panel.
laser.
Okay.
You can cut. You can cut a big panel into strips, and from 5 watts you can make it into 2 watts or lower. So you would see how people in the remote areas can see if it's charging or not. So we had to make the simple is actually beautiful. How can you make something so simple? We have mobile chargers, we have street lights. So we have a way to teach people how to fix it. So what's interesting here is these are designs.
Was this the kit that you used for that challenge?
Yes,
Okay,
yes. So,
this
so, so we would. It was really be easy because the challenge, the Light It Forward challenge, was they would receive a package,
like that. Oh.
and we said, "Can you give 30 minutes of your time to build a light?"
Okay.
And then, of course, because we had no marketing budget, we said to them, "Once you build it and once you light it, can you challenge somebody in your phone book
To do the same.
to do the
thing.
same?" And so we had the big stock in the warehouse, but no corporates to be able to, because usually we work with corporates to do it. But this time we said, okay, there are no corporates that are getting, but we have thousands of kits, and it went from 1 to 30 to 300 to we had thousands of people, celebrities. We had politicians. We had everybody from their house.
They just wanted to participate.
Wanted to participate with their families. They wanted to have hope in a time of darkness of COVID.
Oh, that's
so that's
nice.
where it became really powerful. So that's how we learned that we can actually have something that everybody can be a change maker from
So
home.
that was the whole point of that challenge. Was it just to spread that idea and also to show people that how easy it can really be? What was your purpose?
It was very hard for me to explain that we should invest in what is called appropriate technologies. That we should be able to make it essential, especially in a country that was being hit by this kind of climate change.
Yes.
And of course, the other side is also, constant brownouts because we don't have enough power plants to light up the country.
Yeah, the entire country.
The entire country. So people are scheduling it that we should put the capacity for energy in their hands. And so Liter of Light really saw that there was a direct link between light and people having problems breathing. For example, if you have kerosene lamps and you have your kid, you're burning that and you're breathing that in, mostly women and children,
Yeah.
and they develop pulmonary problems. A light falls, it can create fire. So, and then, as I said, 30 to 35% of your money is just going to buy the kerosene. So if you can shift that, there could be more education, better food. There was so many things tied to
Attached,
lighting.
yeah.
And so that's why but nobody was investing in it. And so what I said is, hey, if you can build it, can you invest in women cooperatives building this as a business model? So it was a way to. It was hard to explain people that solar lighting can be in your hands. And when they built it, they say, kaya pala.
Okay.
And so it was easier for me to invest in this kind of, I would call them, like women, micro energy cooperatives. But it's the start, no? It's the start. Green jobs from the bottom.
That's
up.
how it started. That's the spread of your advocacy.
yeah.
Okay, let's talk more about that when we return after a short break.
This public service announcement is brought to you by Meralco.
Magandang araw mga kaliwanag at gayon din sa ating mga katribo. Formal nang inanunsyo ng pag-asa na tapos na ang El Nino season sa bansa. Nagsisimula na rin ang sunod-sunod na pag-ulan sa maraming bahagi ng Pilipinas kasama ng Metro Manila, kaya inaasahan ng ahensya na pagdating ng Hulyo ay maaring magsimula na rin ang La Nina. Kami po sa Meralco ay nakahanda na sa mga maaring maging epekto ng tag-ulan. Patuloy ang koordinasyon ng kumpanya sa Department of Energy, Energy Regulatory Commission at iba pang ahensya ng gobyerno na involved sa public service. Lalong-lalo na sa mga local government units ng mga lugar na nasasakop ng aming prangkisa. Kung napapansin po ninyo, mas pinaigting pa namin ang pagsasagawa ng maintenance at upgrading work sa aming mga pasilidad para masiguro na kakayanin ng aming facility sakaling magkaroon ng mga malalakas na bagyo. Bukod dito, tuloy-tuloy din po ang aming inisyatiba sa wire clearing operations sa ilalim ng aming anti-urban blight program. At hindi rin tumitigil ang aming tree trimming activities para maiwasan ang mga posibleng aksidente dahil sa mga ulan o bagyo. Bago matapos itong digital explainer na ito mga kaliwanag at mga katribo, meron po akong iiwang mga tips para sa inyo. Una, dapat po ay updated tayo sa mga balita at alam natin kung anong mga paparating na bagyo sa ating lugar. Bago pa man tumama ang nasabing bagyo, siguraduhin naka-charge ang mga cellphone nyo, power banks at iba pang rechargeable na items at appliances, lalo na yung mga importante tulad ng electric fan at mga ilaw. I-ready na rin natin ang ating mga flashlights at mga kandila. Kung hindi natin maiiwasang gamitin, make sure safe po tayo. Para kung magkaroon man ng power interruption dahil sa bagyo o malakas na ulan, ay may magagamit tayo agad. Mag-imbak din tayo ng sapat na pagkain at tubig sa bahay para handa tayo kung hindi pa man ligtas lumabas. Kapag naman pinasok ang ating bahay ng baha, siguraduhin nakapatay ang linya ng kuryente o ang main circuit breaker. Lumabas lang kung kailangan. Gumamit ng kapote, rubber boots kung lulusong sa baha bilang dagdag proteksyon sa aksidente at sa sakit. Dapat din tuyo ang mga kamay bago humawak ng anumang pasilidad ng kuryente, pero kung hindi naman kailangan, wag na ninyong gawin. Tanggalin na rin sa pagkakasaksak ang mga kagamitang may kuryente. Kapag humupa na ang baha, para rin sa kaligtasan ng lahat, ipacheck po sana natin sa lisensyadong electrician ang mga saksakan at wiring sa bahay bago gamitin. At kung sa hindi inaasang pagkakataon magkaroon ng mga power interruptions o power outages, paki-message nyo po kami sa official social media account ng Meralco o kaya tumawag sa aming hotline na makikita sa screen. Ilan lamang po ito sa aming munting paalala mula sa inyong Manong Joe. Hangad po namin ang kaligtasan ninyo anuman ang panahon. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras at nawa ay nakatulong po ang inyong lingkod para magbigay linaw sa usaping ito dito sa Digital Explainer sa Daily Tribune.
And this break is brought to you by Angkas, Beat the Traffic, Bayad Center, hashtag Bigger Better Younger Bayad, and you can buy it all. Globe, atin ang mundo. Meralco, ang liwanag ng bukas. SM, we've got it all for you. Smart, live more today. Union Bank, it starts with you.
Tune in to Daily Tribune's show aimed at addressing the needs and problems of our OFWs from different corners of the globe. Hear about their plights and success stories every Tuesday and Thursday, 3 p.m. only on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now on YouTube.
Straight Talk dives deep into present issues of leadership, politics, business, and more. Engage in insightful conversations with industry shakers, government leaders, and trailblazers every Wednesday at 10 a.m. only here on Daily Tribune's Facebook page and Tribune Now in YouTube.
Perfect. We're still here with Illac Diaz. So you were talking about litter of light. Okay, so I have a question here from one of the editors. Litter of light started as a litter bottle filled with water that is placed on the roof. How has it evolved through the years, and what does it look like now in terms of design and components?
So the litter of light, the coal concept was to make myself obsolete. Wherein in most technology transition, it's like, please help me so I can help them. Or in solar lighting, it's especially those that sell solar lights. It's, I'll give it to you manufactured, but it's designed to be obsolete. That means in 2 years, as soon as you finish paying off the debt, it breaks, and therefore do it again. For organizations, okay, if I buy 1 million lights, in 2 years or 3 years, I have to replace all of them. The street lights in municipal halls today, in 5 years, lithium ion will break, and all those street lights, solar street lights will break. So, litter of light was basically trying to say, how can we start a transition in the Philippines, remember, where there's 13 million without light. Many more cannot afford our electricity. How do you transition that into our own particular way of having cleaner access to energy? So what we did was what is called the daylight. A plastic bottle, 3 ml of bleach to kill, to keep the water clear.
Yes.
Then the thing with plastic bottle is built so strong that if you throw it around, I mean, it's pretty indestructible.
Yeah.
And then you put it through the roof, one half through the roof to another half through the roof, and then we have what is called the flushing. That grips the bottle so that water doesn't come in, and then we put the flushing on the top roof, so
Okay.
the water will go up and then it will flush down, right? So it doesn't go. Then of course we glue it and rivet. Anyway, the point that was what people don't understand, that there is darkness even during the day here in the Philippines. So what happens is you have a house, then you put a wall, and then somebody else puts a house. If you go to Tondo
Yeah,
and
so
you,
there's no light coming.
so you actually blanket the whole village by sticking roofing sheets next to each other. There's no windows.
Yeah.
And so what happens is people have to have kandila, they have to have lanterns, they have to have some kind of lighting inside their house. So even yung mga, how do you call it, fluorescent bulbs, is under. So the point there is, how can you make them save energy during the day? People are always talking about light, but I was saying, how about the efficiency of not having to switch on your electricity? How much can you save from 10 o'clock in the morning, or even as early as 7 o'clock in the morning, you need light already, till 5 o'clock. Restaurants under those sheets, manufacturing under those sheets, all of them are tapping electricity. And when they don't have it, they need to get it somewhere, right? So having access to passive lighting is a huge efficiency in daylight, just having daylight transition. And the second one was, if you save money during the day, it makes us easier to get those savings and transition you to the night. So litter of light design was really daylight for savings, and then yung naipon mo na
the day.
$5 to $10 each person or each family, you can buy a night light by buying the parts. So with $20 in 4 months, you could have enough. Because you know what you're saying is, where am I going to allow these people to be able to afford solar lights or to rent it?
Right. I
And
see.
if they cannot afford anymore, you get it from saving. So the whole thing was save during the
So
day so that they can have light at
at
night.
night.
Because the
Okay.
lithium-ion batteries are not cheap. So it was a savings plan to be able to buy at night by
Okay.
having water bottles, but at the same time at night
You can have this.
you can have your hand built, and you don't have to do it late. If you have a lantern, you take the old lantern, you take away the insides, and you can transition it into solar light. So the whole thing was how do you create a business plan for communities to transition. In the corporate sense, what we do is we go to the corporates, and we were so inspired by what Gawad Kalinga. Our own, you have to use, don't copy. Use what works.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to donate a house, but everybody wants to be part of building the house. Therefore, we learned that nobody's gonna donate a light, but everyone wants to be part of building the light. And so we go to corporates like IKEA, like Mercedes, like different companies who hundreds of their employees was making lights by hand. Then we donate them. We get our 20 to 25%. Remember, social enterprise. We get our money to be able to run our offices, and we give them to women cooperatives. Instead of selling kerosene, we said, can you switch into renting out lights for half the cost of your kerosene? Remember, what is the business model of these women cooperatives? They would get a drum every week, go to the city or go across the river or the channel to get drums to the islands, then sell it in tingi-tingi. That's how energy is done in places without. So it's dangerous, it's toxic, it's expensive to have this carbon-based fuels, and now we're saying you can actually transition it by having hand-built, fixable, but more important, scalable. Even without me, they can replicate it by buying the same parts without me.
Yeah. Okay, so I guess was that one of the challenges that you encountered, like getting them to see it from your point of view?
Well,
was
yeah,
it
I mean,
easy to convince them to shift?
it's hard to explain how we should build and create our own solar skills, right? What happens is it's like rice. They don't want to help the small farmer, but they want to buy it in bulk from abroad. It's easier just to buy the bulk
Yeah.
and have a one-off transaction than try to build capacities of the small farmers. What happens is today we're one of the largest importer of rice.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with energy transition. What I believe is that if we teach people how to make their own green jobs, solar skills, to buy the parts, to we get the batteries from vape. Vape, unfortunately, is all over the country, but you can also buy lithium ion all over the country.
Yeah.
You can buy LEDs from motorcycles, so it's 12 volts. So it's just there's a possibility, but you have to create it. But it's tedious because you have to go from village to village to village to
Yeah.
village. Then you have to get large funds from corporates. And what happened with me is I realized that I can get thousands by challenging the world record, right?
Yeah.
So the point there is if I get to break the world record, the point there is not really the world record, but I get to keep the thousands of lights to start this kind of, women cooperative,
Yeah. Okay. Were there any other challenges that you had to go through to get Litter of Light to where it is now?
Let me tell you, it's so hard for people to believe that Filipinos can change the world. That South-South technologies, things that we learned how to do here, can actually be transferred in the same scenario to other countries. We, in a way, are so used to getting donations
Yes.
for problems, which has an extinguish rate. So people will come up with programs once it extinguishes, everybody, finishes their jobs and moves on. We need to really have this kind of institutional knowledge in the people that actually need it. And so when people, for example, get donations for 1 million solar lights and then they give it, nobody goes back there in 3 to 5 years and says the real truth. It's like It's like when we put solar in our schools. Nobody is telling you that many of these schools, the battery is already dead. We have to come up with our own, transition into green, which might be a little bit different from buying it wholesale. Even when they do large scale solar plants, a lot of that energy does not go to poor communities. They go above them and they go to people that can pay for the debts that are caused by them. Just because you put it on indigenous land, or you have a water dam on their land, doesn't mean that they're getting electricity less. You have to have debts to pay. That's why I really believe that there should be large scale, but there should also be one that they have the capacity to be able to control with their with their own hands. And solar is something that people can start building on.
Yeah. And how far have you gone in that advocacy?
Well, we've crossed about 2 million people around the world. And, in Brazil, we have about 30 people. And they all work with this business model where we do solar in the corporates. The corporates give us our income. And then from there, we go to women cooperatives where we shift from kerosene to solar. And so they're earning. We don't get a percentage of their earning, but everything is somehow maintained. What's interesting is we also have repair facilities. So if the women cannot repair them with a screwdriver in the remote area, when the husband or the village needs to sell vegetables or fish in the main city, usually the woman has a list of parts that she needs. And so we don't have this kind of logistical costs of having to control everything. So they would come in, they would drop their stuff in the wet market, but then when they go back, the truck is empty, right? So we put in the parts. It looks weird, you're a solar movement, but you're in the fish market or the vegetable market, and you put a wrap parts and you put it there, and then they go all the way back to their village. And then the woman gets the parts and then they repair it. Or if they can, they go to their nearest city. They don't have to go to central Manila. The whole point was anywhere around the world,
you can get
the parts. But the knowledge, we don't have a single factory, but it can be repaired and built
right there.
somehow by them. Yeah.
Galing, ah. So wow.
Yeah.
So you mentioned a while ago that you also make other things other than the lights.
So mobile chargers. Remember, during the storm we were there. So there were a lot of bunkhouses.
Yeah.
So we learned how to, light up the bunkhouses first with plastic bottles. There were 2 plants, soft drink plants that were destroyed in Tacloban. So we don't use very thin water bottles. We use the thick ones, so we started putting them in the bunkhouses. And then later we started having street lights because there was a lot of theft with women. So we started having this, these corridors of light. So women can go from the aid facility to their tent without being robbed or harassed. And so we also had mobile charging systems.
Okay.
So these are the things that we specialize in, where you could build them all by hand.
Nice.
And repair them. And it's the same thing. If it breaks, it's something that you can fix. So even when we give these lights, we actually give them also spare parts.
And the knowledge too.
The knowledge is actually the most important part of the skills building. Is because if a person disappears from the organization, let's say I decide to close it, that I have the feeling that around the world, it will go on long beyond me. So in Brazil, in the middle of the Amazon, there are so many villages just running on liter of light. So they have their 6 hours worth of gasoline in the generator. When it dies, they have liter of light. So it's the same theory that the richest people here have solar panels on the roof, is because everybody wants to save on energy.
Yeah, that's true. What was the first country that you took liter of light to?
Malaysia. So Philippines, and then very similar, Malaysia. Well, we have also the Malay race, so it was, so Malaysia. We went to, to where they were planting flowers. Cameroon Highlands. Cameroon Highlands.
Okay.
And so they had also a lot of money that they were investing in keeping, keeping the lights on the but they didn't have
Blooms
solar
on the
in there.
flowers.
Yeah, the blooms. So that's where most of the flowers that
Yeah.
are sold.
Yeah.
And so they were running out of money for keeping also their houses lit. And so we would light up the streets.
Yeah.
And
Wow. So you've also had a recent victory in Dubai. Tell us a little bit about it before we say goodbye for now.
So yes, I think it's very important in the whole scope of the discussions on climate change that in a way Filipinos are on the losing end of the narrative. First of all, a lot of the foreign films made or funded here is that Filipinos, there should be a winner and there should be
Yeah,
a
the
loser in the narrative.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in the narrative, it's always the Filipinos that are,
The-
destroyed, devastated, destroyed environments, that, we have to help them.
Yes.
So that creates a lot of climate anxieties for young people who watch these movies. Like, there's no other way except to wait for help, or there's nothing that we can do.
Yeah.
We're in this, this on the way down. People that are in the climate change discussions want to talk about it, but anyway, the whole point for me was really that we can put a little bit of storytelling in our hands. There could be some kind of brown heroism, not only Al Gore, not only Greta Thunberg, but there could be some kind of brown climate heroism.
I
that
like that.
that we can also have a voice in in this climate change. The other thing that also people don't understand is the way they ridicule Filipinos around the world, that during the month of July, August, is when people are always begging for money. Oh, my house was destroyed, or or a typhoon flooded my village. It just so happens that governments are not paying for climate damages. This loss and damage, it has been a topic only after 28 years. So you can imagine till when will they pay us, right? And so the people that are heroes, actually, when you see, hey, it's August again, can you help me? Say, hey, Filipinos always asking for money. You're such a, in a way, climate beggars, right?
Oh, wow.
So, but they don't understand, hey, it's because your government is not helping us transition into, to be able to prevent the weakest and, the least contributing to climate change. The migrants around the world are actually the one rebuilding their money from around the world. They're the heroes of this climate change discussion, are actually going because governments are not, other governments are not paying for our transition. And so I really want to say that, there's a lot that we can tell the world about us, but we need to speak. We need to speak in their language, unfortunately. We need to speak in a way that, we can communicate that we can also change the world and not to treat us, as a second-class climate, victim.
It's all in our hands.
It's always been, and that's why litter of light is something that you can,
Build
in your
with
hands.
right? That's perfect. So, is there anything else that you would like to say before to invite them?
Yes,
anything that's
I
in the
think
plans?
very important really is, as we transition the young people into climate change, is also that we should not just make them awareness. Awareness is the easiest thing to tell them. Okay, I'm gonna make a speech and then I'll see you again next year.
Yeah.
Because of this climate anxiety, you have to give them something or work with, social enterprises that actually creates this change, something that they can work with their hands. Because today we get more and more youth that have hopelessness or they don't volunteer. We have such a low amount of people wanting to become involved with climate change because we have a lot of professionals that talk to the young people. But once they get them excited for the change, they say, okay, what do we do now? And they say, no, it's up to you. So these are big problems with these kind of communications where you excite the young people, you bring them to rock concerts, but when they actually want to get ready, you tell them, I don't know. I'm not actually on the ground. I'm I'm just a communicator here.
Okay.
So that's bringing a lot of, how do you call it?
Frustration? No?
Yes, they're not only frustrated, but they feel that either it's youth greenwashing, which is you bring all the youth there, you take a picture of them, and then you send them home, and all of these young people said, "What did I? I learned about it, but
What did I actually do?"
What did I actually do?" And so Liter of Light is with we just broke the world record for the world's largest solar artwork, where we got thousands of young people to build it, and immediately we're gonna give them to villages here. But we want to work with more, that you have to make people feel that they're very authentic.
Yeah.
Show me that it actually works, and I can be part of it. Because if you're just going to make a business about lecturing about climate change without any kind of key result area,
Right.
you're having more and more jaded young people over the years of doing this, where they're not going to want to be involved
At all.
at all. So you have to partner with somebody where we can use this energy that you build into some kind of, in some kind of action.
Yes.
Real climate action.
Okay, there you have it. Thank you everyone for joining us this afternoon. We hope you learned a lot. I sure did. And we hope to have you over once again to talk about your next projects, maybe on our other show, Usapang OFW. So thank you everyone for watching. Watch us again next Friday. This has been Dinah Ventura. You have watched Pairfect.